It's all right.
All right. It was telling me to leave immediately. Right. Um,
Like my
welcome
English.
to the latest episode of Indie Bants with Joe and Jimmy. I'm here with Joe, obviously.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. It's been a month since the last time we did this.
It'll have been a month because we skipped the one 2 weeks ago. Well, we didn't skip it. We had unforeseen circumstances, which we
So yeah,
almost
yeah.
had again 15 minutes ago, and some
Mm.
expensive audio equipment was about to be smashed by me in rage. So,
But you will notice our silky smooth voices this time round
well, here's hoping.
because
It sounded smooth to me. I'm gonna get very smooth and just center myself. Oh, as in, like on the frame of the video, not like meditation. Maybe both. Let's turn this into an ASMR meditation podcast. So just
could be.
open your chakras and get ready to celebrate some indie games.
Yes, that should be the tagline from now on.
I think
But
it works.
how you been doing over the last month, Joe?
I'm having a mare, Jimmy, to be fair. I mean, I feel like every time we
That
start this
rhymed.
podcast, I'm just raging because I've had some audio equipment issues and all this kind of like technical faff on that I don't think anyone actually needs. And
No.
like you said, we've replaced the mics. Hopefully, we should have no problems. Everyone should hear us loud and clear. You should be able to see us nice and clearly on the video. We've got our software working. We've got our audio working. Audio listeners should be able to like not have to deal with the awful audio of a broken microphone or webcam
Yep,
microphone. And we're all back on it, and work's been mega busy. And I got my hair cut finally, Jim. I've gone
you did.
because
Trimmed
and
your beard as well.
I've trimmed my beard because I'm attending a fake wedding this afternoon.
A fake wedding.
Yes, on ice. So
Oh, you got a performance.
today is my end of year ice skating performance,
Oh,
in
nice.
which we'll have to perform to Bruno Mars's "Marry You," and as the only guy in my ice skating group, I have to be the groom. So I've had to go get my hair cut and get a trim because I have to try and ice skate in a suit. So that's what I've got on this afternoon, and loads and loads of work. I've been translating a video game, and I've proofread all the instructions for a long and complicated board game this month. So I haven't actually had that much time to play indie games, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, we're
Probably
gonna. Sounds like it's been a busy month.
it's been a mad one.
Um,
What about yourself?
well, it's weird that you should say that you're being the groom in a fake wedding because I'm actually the bride in a fake wedding this afternoon.
Well, whatever you and the last night to get up to, that's
No, nothing quite as exotic as that. We've been getting the back of the house sorted, and
a
work's actually
euphemism.
not been that bad. No, um, plumber's finally been in and finished what he was
Uh,
supposed to finish a week ago, so that's nice. At least everything's got running water back there now. Um, and then yeah, work's been okay, but just life in a renovation with two young kids is busy. So yeah, but it's all good. I can't really complain. I can't say we've had anything
I think we should have
awful
a
happen.
tradie complaints segment of the podcast where you
Oh,
just
I'd,
it's
I'd
like
ne- it never
there's
ends.
nothing better than like finding like a good like tradie that'll like get the job done. Like the second you find that, like life is so much nicer. I'm the same with like my mechanic, where it's just
Yeah.
like I know that I can just take the
Oh yeah.
car out,
Yeah.
take the car round to his. The window broke on the car the other day, actually. Yeah, so it just
How'd the
remained.
window break?
I opened it and then it decided that was the situation it liked
That
to
was
be in.
it.
It just went, no, I'm not,
Ah,
I'm not rolling back up. And because it's electric windows, I was
how
like,
dare you?
I was
How
just
dare
like,
you turn my
well, basically,
Your
yeah,
car's a diva, Joe.
it is. And so the worst thing though is then we got some rain, so I had to just tape up the gap in the window. Had this nice aerodynamic feature on this slightly ajar passenger side window, which when you're going down the motorway, literally sounds like you're in a
Oh
drum
yeah.
line. It's just like
Yeah.
it's because obviously it was just masking tape, and I was just sort of, but good mechanic. I take the car, the pop around in the morning. I'm like, that's broken. One of the front lights doesn't work.
Jesus Christ.
I think
We
I
could
need
do a
new ones.
podcast on your car.
I know
Just
it.
the week to week like mishaps and adventures of Joe's car.
But the thing is, he's like, yeah, I'll get it sorted this afternoon. Leave it with me. I'm like, winner. And then at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he's like, yeah, it's all done. It was the work's really cheap. It's all like easy stuff where if I could actually be bothered and didn't have enough work on, you feel like I could probably
You
just
could
like
wing it.
I could wing it and sort it. It's literally a case of like, dodgy contacts and thing. I'm like, I don't have time to to do this. So
Yeah.
send it round to him, and then it's someone else worrying about it rather than me. Whereas like it would be fun again if wasn't like completely swamped with work and that to like
Yeah.
give it a go yourself and go, yeah, I'm
Give it a
just going to
go,
sort
yeah.
out the electrics on my car or whatever. But I'm just like, nah, leave it with an actual professional. But yeah, people like that, totally worth having around, and it's great the peace of mind having someone who's professional and good. Shite tradies, can it even? I've got a
No,
good
it's
plumber though,
annoying. We
theoretically.
over the course of the last 4.5 years, we've managed to whittle it down to a group of people who actually, like, to be fair to the plumber, he he did do the job and he comes back, but like it's just one of them things where when they leave the job and then there's a small issue and then you can't use that thing because they have to come back like 3 days later to fix it. That's when it's frustrating. Even with the good ones, that's frustrating.
Mm. And you should,
Yeah. Like, fortunately, we have now got a list of competent people that we can rely on, but it has taken 4.5 years of trial and error and idiots coming in and out of the house before we've actually got to that point. So, like, the thing I find annoying about it is if I'm paying someone to come in and do the job, if they've done the job and I think I could have done it to at least that standard, that's when I get annoyed about it as well. Like, I expect someone who's a professional at this thing to do the job better than I could possibly do it myself. I know the time saving is in there as well. Sometimes you're just like, right, I need someone to do this because I just don't have time. But if the quality of the work at the end of it is like, Jesus, I could have done that, like, that's when I get quite annoyed as well.
but I
That's only
think
happened once or twice
I,
though.
I think obviously I don't mind paying for work that I could do just as well myself if the rates are good. Obviously, I think
Yes,
that's the
yeah.
whole different thing. I happily just because there's a lot of things that you just pay people to do because you don't want to, you don't
Yeah.
want to do them yourself.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, you go, my time's worth more than this, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't have the time for it, or whatever, and you just get it sorted. But it's the same. Not to turn this into a lesson or a marketing podcast, but it's the same kind of thing that indie devs should definitely look at.
Yes.
For
Especially if
not,
they're
not
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 doing
hiring
it
a
at all.
plumber, not hiring not hiring
Yeah,
plumbers and
hire all the
mechanics.
plumbers you need.
But in the event that you think there's something that it's not going to be worth your time doing, use your time more wisely and invest in a third party or an outsourced
Mm-hmm.
professional to do something. I see a lot of indie devs getting some really nice like key art done where it's like maybe that kind of art style isn't in their wheelhouse. Like maybe they're better at like in-game art, 3D renders, or like pixel art, or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
art style is. Then you see them and they go out and they go, well, this isn't really the art style that I'm best at, and I can hire someone to do a nice bit of key art for my game to go
Mm-hmm.
right up there on the Steam page and just wow potential players. But yeah,
Oh yeah, for sure.
it's the bane of everyone's existence. I think finding like reliable people to help you out with crack on.
Aye.
But
Right,
yes,
we've slammed the
we've ranted
tradesman.
enough. Rant over.
Yeah.
So we've
Um.
slammed a bunch of professionals that we've never met, but
Yeah. All of them. No.
oh yeah.
Uh. But we can. Oh, let's jump into a bit of. Got a little bit of. Well, there's been a few big updates coming out, haven't there? For one major thing that's I think caught everyone. Well, not everyone a bit by surprise. I saw that it got leaked a
Not the
little
people
bit
working
early,
there.
and it did get leaked like. Is it like a day before on Reddit? I saw loads of
Mm,
screenshots, and everyone was like, "Okay, this is about
it's
to
happening.
drop," and then it happened like a day later, which was the Oblivion remaster. And I'll be honest, I think calling it a remaster is a little bit of an understatement. It's not just like when I hear remaster, I think like a reskin and like improved visuals, and
Yeah, like
that's
they've
about
they've
it.
polished it. Like they've not
Polished
built
it,
anything new. They've just like up-resed some textures and are
yeah,
like when they clean up old film. Like that's the parallel that I draw in my head.
yeah. But like from the looks of this, it's like it's a new game. It's well, not a new game. It's the same
Yeah.
content, obviously, but like it's the amount they've gone back to rework is fairly impressive, and it looks phenomenal, doesn't it? I mean, let's see,
Get some crack up on it because
because oh man, I think it looks. I proper glued to the
I mean, admittedly, it.
promotional
I
video.
don't want. I don't want to slam the game because it is of its time, but it was doing things where I think the fidelity.
For all these years,
Oh, Jesus, I'm
I've never been the ruler of my own dreams.
I'll
get
turn
the
the sound
audio
off.
off, Jim. Jesus.
Sorry, although Patrick
Audio's not
Stewart's
that good.
voice is better than ours.
No, it's something where you're just like the old game, I think, like, was beyond itself in terms of, right, we've got this really nice, like, fidelity that we can achieve, but there was something about the kind of art style, the character style. There's something very, like,
Goofy.
yeah, like, all the characters looked kind of like they were in that horrible, like, uncanny valley bit that they needed to get obviously over that hump, and it's, it was of its time. That's how it happened. But they all do look like Erling Haaland. But they do, though, don't they? Like, every
They
character in
do.
that has that kind of face, and you're like, even characters you feel shouldn't have that kind of face. Like, they all kind of looked like, every character looked a bit like an orc in the
Did.
even
They looked
non-orc
like hit in
characters.
the face with a pan, didn't they? Like,
Yes,
like
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
like squished out face.
Like him out of some 41.
Yes. It's every character in Oblivion was the love child of Erling Haaland, and what's he called? Something Weebly.
Is he called Derek?
Derek Weebly.
I don't know. I mean,
That's what they based it on.
what's this? I'm looking this up. Sorry.
To be fair, like this does look incredible. Like, I mean, if it wasn't like
Derek
what is it,
Wibley. Yeah, Weebly
Weebly.
or Wibley. But
If it wasn't 60 quid or whatever it is, I'd probably be jumping back into it myself. But
it was one of those games I never
there's other
completed.
games to play.
It's one of those I never. Skyrim was the first and only of these games that I bothered to do all the main quests because they were quite easy, and the others I just got distracted, and it was only because I played Skyrim to death, and it's like there'd been no real updates to, like, they hadn't done any other Elder Scrolls games. Like Skyrim, they just let fester. Do you know what I mean? In the sense that
Yeah.
they made it, nothing new came out. They just threw out another Skyrim on a different platform or a different version. You know what I mean? Like, they just, like, what the same as what they did with Grand Theft Auto 5. Like, they released that game and then they're like, you know what? That's been on like 3 different generations of consoles now, or something stupid like that. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's like, and when
That's
something's
become
out
a meme
that
now,
long,
doesn't it? Like,
yeah, when
like
6 coming
whenever
out,
something new, it's like, yeah, like this.
Ye-
Even this arrived before Grand Theft Auto.
like Half-Life 3, that was the one for years, and then they did
Yeah.
Alex on the VR. But that's one of those things where you just, like, with it being out there for so long, eventually I have time to go back round and do the main quest. But this is one. You know what, though? I was upset it wasn't Morrowind. I'm gonna put that
Yeah.
out there because I actually always preferred Morrowind to Oblivion.
Oh, I don't know. Like,
It might be a time and place thing. I don't know
It
if
might-
it's not a better game, but like Morrowind was the first game like that I
Yeah,
played. I
same
remember
for
you
me,
you
yeah.
showed me that game on your PC at your parents' gaff, like in your older brother's room. Like, this is like
Yeah.
there's something in, like, us sitting there, and I think we were maybe playing it when your mom caught us. No, this is the, not like that. We don't like Morrowind
Finish
that
that
much.
sentence.
No, when we with certain substances that we maybe shouldn't have
Yeah,
had. But that
Yeah.
was like, just that kind of, like, era. There's something about, like, in discovering a game like that, where you're like, you can just, like, go and do anything in this game. I'm like, no, you can't. I mean, everyone
it's
says that.
by far the first game that was the first game I
That
played
gave
that
you
had
that
that. It was
freedom.
like, holy crap, how big is this world? Like, it was a bit overwhelming, to be honest,
it's
at that
just
point. I didn't know what to
eye-opening.
do.
But that's it, like, and that had nothing to do with the substances being consumed. It was just
No.
but that was just. It's always going to have a soft spot for me, just
Yeah. I
because
did
of
like
that
that.
stuff.
It looked a little bit like Oblivion was very like what I would consider
Tolkien.
like high fantasy to look like,
Yes,
whereas like
and Morrow's.
Morrowind was quite a bit like gritty and grimy, and it was like a bit sort of dirty and
Yeah,
dusky, and it looked a little. So I do think the look, if Morrowind got remastered, I'd probably, just because I've literally finished Oblivion playing it like 6 months ago. I actually went back to it and decided to complete it. So I'm probably a lot less likely to jump into this remaster. But if they remastered Morrowind like tomorrow to this level of Oblivion, if they did that, I'd probably buy that
oh,
pretty much straight away, and I'd jump in and play that again. Because annoyingly, I did try Morrowind probably about 9 months ago, and it hasn't
Aged
aged well, because I'm just used to the way that new games play. I hate going back to the old games and feeling like, oh, it's too janky and horrible, and yeah, so I found it a bit of a struggle to go back to, even though I have very fond memories of playing that game. Skyrim, I thought, was amazing. So
But that's one of those things. I bet you if I went back tomorrow and I'd be like, oh, that's not as fun as I thought it was. Though
yeah,
best leveling up system, and I'll die on that hill. Leveling up systems in games should take the choice out of your hands and literally make it a kind of like skills equate to practice. You do the skill, you level up in it, nothing else.
Yeah.
Not this like this. You pool all your XP together and then you just level up the skill you want to, even though you've never used it because it's too weak and useless. Like it, they should have that thing where like you're not very good at something when you first start doing it. Like you have to sit there and miss like 90 arrows to kill one shitey little crab, and then you're like, when you get it, you're like, get in, like we've done it. Like now I'm slightly better at archery, like as it should be. You can't just go out and like punch some trees and then come back and be like, right now I'm gonna dip all my skills. I'm gonna just make every skill that I can't be asked to use because they're no good when you rubbish at them, make them good now. And Morrowind had that where you had to run everywhere like across the map to get faster and have more stamina. So you were
the other
constantly
games did have that to a certain extent, though, didn't they? Like if you used block a lot, you would upgrade your block skill. If you did have that, didn't it? The other ones.
I might be thinking of Skyrim where that had it wasn't direct. You had some like overarching skills or qualities that I think you could funnel experience into. So like your overall like swordsmanship was denoted by like strength or something like that. I can't remember, but it wasn't directly linked. You could just up skills that you didn't use, which is the the complaint I have about the whole thing.
Yeah. But it does look good, and it was cool. Actually, tell you what I really liked about it, which I'd love to see come back to games in general, was when they announced it in the video, they also said you can download it now. None of this like we're announcing this. Basically they've realized the mistake they made with Elder Scrolls 6 by announcing that like 7 years ago or whatever it was, and there's still no sign of it. It's like, come on, let's not be announcing things before they're nearly ready to actually play it, because we'll go sit here and then we're just going to get the fatigue of like, oh yeah, that
When's it
game
coming out?
never coming out. It's been
But it's like
ages.
don't
We
put the
still just
kids
got
in
that
the
one
car and then
screenshot.
be like, I'm going to Disney. And they're like, yeah, and you're like, oh yeah, but I totally forgot we're driving from the northeast and we've got to drive down to Paris or whatever.
We've got to walk there.
Yeah. But
It's so like I think they've learned from their mistake, but I did quite like that. I don't necessarily need things to be announced and then released on the same day, but
it's
remember
this whole
back when
hype train though, isn't it? Everyone wants to
you
build
used
this
to
hype
get
train.
like you'd get this like message from the company or in a magazine or something years ago, and there might be a demo in the magazine, and then it'd be like the game's coming in like summer this year, or you think, oh, I've got a few months to wait, and then the game's going to be out. It was never mentioned like years in advance that this thing was going to come along.
Though you can only do this if you are someone like Bethesda.
Yeah, I know.
This is one of those things. I was like that I would never advise like an indie dev do this. Like that you have to have that marketing like snowball effect of building up the the awareness for your project. You can only do that if you're Bethesda, because it's something really cool. It's cool to do, and this will probably generate more talk than the option of actually slowly building, because people are like, yeah, I'm not that excited, but just being like, oh, it's they're going to capture that like on a whim kind of.
Yeah, but then they also have like different indie devs where we've been talking about how indie devs can be marketing their game from like the whole creation process can be part of the marketing, whereas for like AAA, the situation is that they have millions of dollars to pour into marketing when the game is ready to market, which is like that's an unfair advantage not unfair, it's an advantage that they have. So when it comes to the marketing period, they can just chuck money at it to generate the awareness. If you don't have that, you probably have to start, as we've said, much earlier in the cycle and use the whole building your game as part of the marketing for the game to help build that awareness, because you don't have money to drop at the like demo or pre-launch stage to generate all that additional awareness. You have to do it over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an advantage that the huge studios have, is that a game could be 6 months out, but here's $25 million to go spend to market the game for the next 6 months. It's massive.
Aye. Well, it was a nice surprise. I mean,
It was.
it's not that I often look to Bethesda for like good news from the gaming industry. So
No,
it's
they've dropped the ball the last sort of like decade or so, haven't they? They haven't done great, but that was probably one of the better things they've done.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
remember when they were like the go-to of like,
Good companies.
yeah, good companies, high quality games. It was like the 2000s, 2000 to like 2012 was like Bethesda was this, oh, what a great company. Like they're doing great, they're putting out great games, they're marketing them right, they're not over promising anything and under delivering. If anything, it's the other way around. And then the last decade has been just like the opposite of that, it feels like. So
What was the one that I think it was Fallout 4, because Skyrim was excellent, and then Fallout 4 was the
bit of a dip.
that was the one where, because that came out a really buggy mess, didn't it? And I think that just
Mm.
tarnished. And they didn't do like the No Man's Sky thing of like, I mean, they probably did, but they didn't get as much credit for it. You know, obviously there
Or
were
they're going
updates,
back and repairing it.
but I
I think
think
it is a I
they
think it's a
did,
fairly
but
reasonable
not in
game
the way
now.
that not in the way that No Man's Sky did. Like No Man's Sky, like kind of rebuilt that game. Like it's so
They
different
did,
from what
yeah.
the original version is. Whereas I think Fallout 4 is, from my understanding, they just kind of fixed the, you know,
The
some of
bugs.
the bugs, and not all of them. But whatever, that's is what it is, and they've just had a few years of that.
The
Uh,
Was it Fallout 76 kind of fell on its
the
arse a little
online
bit,
one,
didn't
yeah,
it?
it's like
Yeah.
yeah, that was. I mean, that was as I didn't mind it. That was just as playable as any other Fallout game. But also, I would just happily just have most of the online stuff taken out of that. I I just
Yeah.
want
Just
a
play a
Fallout game.
Fallout game. Yeah.
I just want to play a Fallout game with me mates. That's it. Like
Yeah.
that's. Whereas I don't want it
Just
alternate. I
co-op
don't.
Fallout basically.
Yeah, I don't want random like twats rocking up and just like I get it that in some people like that kind of thing. I just want to like work my way through the story whilst chatting to me pal, because there's a lot of downtime in those games where you're just like ambling through, you know, like the wilderness and shit like that. And I'm like, yeah, whilst I'm out like leveling up, it's one of those things where it's just like, especially at the age we're at now, where you just kind of like you've got enough stuff. It's like when you play games with your mates, you kind of want a game where you can also catch up with them. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like there's too many games that are like take too much of your like mental bandwidth, and you spend like an hour or two playing them, and then you're like, oh, I don't know what my mate's been getting up to. Actually, you know, that game was just too intense. You know, like when we used to play Siege, that had like between rounds crack on, but you were just like, oh, I guess, yeah, Jimmy does have a new kid. Totally forgot to ask. We were too busy like shouting about like breaching walls and like getting on, you know, rappelling down the side of buildings and then like throwing smoke grenades and shit like that. And you've been playing for 2 hours. You're like, have no idea about my mate's life and what they've been up to, because we haven't actually been hanging out. We've just been focusing on playing this game.
We did defuse the bomb though, which is the most important thing.
I don't think we did. My recollection of how siege sessions went is that it was often like, I mean, it was like we lost more than we won, but I feel that is the case in
Did.
most games that I play.
That one
Yeah.
was a tricky one though. But
Yeah.
yes, we've also got something else we'd like to have a bit of a chat about, which is me and Joe started chatting about this because I noticed something. I'm not going to call it out because I don't think
Yeah,
it's the right
I
thing
was
to
gonna
do,
say
but
it.
it started a conversation with us about the issues sometimes that particularly indie games can suffer from, where you're balancing a lot of the times between the very, very fine line between games that are inspired by other games or games that were played in the youth or current popular games, whatever it is,
Mhm.
and games that unfortunately I think take a step over that line and become just flagrant
Rip-offs.
rip-offs of a game, whether that's stealing the art style to try and appeal to an audience who might associate that art style with that game and then buy the game and realize it's nothing to do with it, and or the other way is just literally creating almost a copy of the game but in a slightly sort of different style, and essentially the same game. And we just started having a bit of a chat about where is that line, and
Well,
yeah,
for context again, not going to call out the game, but it was. But what for this one, we found some key art. But going back to what I was talking about, hiring people for key art, which again,
yeah,
this might have just been a whole like conversation breakdown or something like that. But basically, the key art was far too similar to the art style of another game,
it
even
was.
though the game itself didn't have this art style at all. So it was kind of weird seeing this key art where you're like, this game looks like another. The key art for this game looks like the key art for another game, which gives me the impression that this game looks and plays like this other game. And actually, once you looked into the game, it was nothing like it. So it was an odd
No.
choice in the first place to do it. But secondly, I was trying to play devil's advocate when we were talking about this, Jimmy. I did say perhaps this is something where they have outsourced someone and said, "Hey, I like this. Can we go for this kind of vibe?"
Yeah.
And the person came out with it, and the art was cool, and they were like, "Yep, love it, approved. That's great." Or they tried to do something, and they were like, "It's not X enough. It's not. It needs to be more like this." And eventually, and I've been in situations like this where I've been working with clients, and they've said, "This is what we like." And you go and try and like do some things, and they're just like, no, this is what we like, and we want it to be like this thing. And
Yeah.
it's we're often like that. I think as humans, we do this a lot. We go where
We do, but it was so close to the art style
I know,
of the
but
game that I was thinking of.
I've built websites for clients, and it's like literally they're just like, I just want this other competitor's website, but with like our colors on it. Like I want the layout and everything is exactly the same, but with our
You said that's where people are getting confused between thinking that like that is the reason that that's successful, which is
Yes,
like
yeah,
that's
so
not
much more to it.
what it is. There's so much more to it than that. Like you can't just take the visuals or the art style of a particularly successful game and decide if we do that, we might get a measure of that success. Like, no, you won't. That's
No.
not what's going to happen. If anything, it'll start conversations like what we had, where I looked at it, I genuinely thought it was an update from the game that
Yeah.
I know, and it wasn't. And I thought, oh dear me, that's way too much
Now
of
you
a
feel
rip-off. That.
misled. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yes,
Well, that's why trademarks exist
exactly.
and
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
mean, I
that.
can
Like,
imagine they might be getting if that project was maybe a little bit more popular than it looks to be. I imagine there would have been.
I don't know. I think this is maybe the tip of the iceberg. It's probably there's so many of them going around there that the inspiration is so much bigger than I am. They're just not bothered. Like I wouldn't be,
Yeah, maybe. If
But then
anything, it
there
made me
was
think about the original game more than it thought about the new one. So I was like, oh
well,
well.
it's like that one that did the rounds, and I can't remember its name. That was another game that did the kind of early animation style. I can't remember the name of this game either, but it was copying. Well, was it copying? Was it inspired by? As you can't say anyone's motives, but it was heavily inspired by Cuphead, or by the art style of the 1920s, 30s, early
Right, yes.
golden age of animation that Cuphead was inspired by, which in a sense is which I didn't get why it got so much anger directed at it. And again, I can't remember the name of this game, but anyone who remembers the game that copied Cuphead, that was got slated by so many people in the like indie community. Maybe this game was just inspired by
The art
that
style of
1930s art style, like Cuphead was.
Yeah, I guess if you can draw it back to that, then that's fair enough.
It's like Cuphead. Cuphead. It was,
it wasn't
a
a
run and
unique art
gun,
style, was it?
not a run and gun. No, exactly. Cuphead didn't
They
invent
didn't
that art
invent it,
style.
yeah.
They meticulously like recreated it and recaptured that, but no one seemed to be like going, "Oh, Cuphead's just copying an old popular style." It was like it was a good idea to do it. It seemed weird that like the second game ever to do it got so much flack for it, going, "They're just copying Cuphead," as if every single game exists in like isolation and is completely unique. Like there's
Well, that's why we talked about like inspired by that is like that's a thing that exists in every creative process, but
has to be.
it has to. But yeah, it's just where it's like a blurred line of like where is that line of like going too far and stepping into rip off or copying rather than inspired by. I imagine it's a very tough line for a lot of indies to walk, because I imagine a lot of indies, a lot of people who do anything creative are often inspired to do that creative thing by something else that they've seen that's been creative. So it's like, oh, I'd love to do, X version of Y because I saw that thing. So like there's a lot of inspiration going around, but you've just got to be really careful not to step too far into that realm of like, well, now all you're doing is just creating a copy of that other thing.
Well, for me, it's I
And that's
think
where the problem comes in, I think.
yeah, for me it's the inspired. I think you've just got to be inspired by more than one thing. Then at least how you bring two sources of inspiration together is the creative process that you bring to it. If you're just inspired directly by just one thing, then you're always going to be pulled too close to the source of inspiration.
Yeah.
And then you're just reinventing the wheel, essentially. You're just making the same thing again. Whereas I think if it's clear you have multiple sources of inspiration, like I liked how they did this, but I liked how they did that, then you'll end up with something that's hopefully like new, whilst also sharing a lot of the similarities to the source material.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's something I mean, that's also just a nice like recipe. That's what your USP is. And again, feel we're trying to turn this into an indie marketing podcast, but that's an indie dev's like USP has to be like, unique,
Yes.
obviously. And I think if you
bringing
take
to
two
the
inspirations, what you bring to the table is this combination of things. It's like fusion cuisine. You're like, yeah, you've had controversial. You've had a pizza before. What if I put some pineapple on it? Like it's one of those things where you just like some
love
guy in
this.
Toronto was like, here's my twist on it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be
That's
for
it.
everyone because there's going to be people who just want the original. That's totally fine. But here's my twist on it, and I think if you're an indie game dev, you can do that.
Pizza's probably a really good example, because if you look at like the first and original types of pizzas compared to like a lot of the different styles of pizzas that you get across, say, America, like the Chicago style, the New York style, then you've got the traditional style. Like it's all pizza, but each person brought a different type of way of making it to the table that's now sits by itself as its own type of thing, even though it's all inspired by pizza. So
Absolutely.
the original pizza. So yeah, it's really, really good analogy for people to take. It's almost like, I love this, but what if I could create this version of this? Like, I'd love to see that version of that thing.
And just don't call it pizza, and then everyone will be happy.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it.
Sometimes, I mean, you do occasionally get like just. I would argue, say something like, even though again, I'm sure it's inspired by lots of things, but then sometimes you get something that comes along, and it's just not been seen before in that combination, and it can come along as something that feels very new. Like I would argue Disco Elysium felt very new. It felt different to everything. It's inspired by tons of different things, but that combination of inspiration felt like unique, and that's when it can work really well. And one of the things actually that leads nicely, if you want, I can go into one of the games I wanted to highlight that I saw. It's probably a week or two ago now, and it looks really interesting. Is I think it's called Anoxia Station.
Yep.
I will share that now.
Fire it open and we'll have a deeks at it.
And yeah, I just thought this looks really cool. And again, because on the topic of inspiration, this is clearly inspired by the artwork of H.R. Geiger, the guy who did the artwork for Alien. Yeah, and I think he did some.
Right.
Yeah, he's done.
Like he designed the costumes of like the Alien, right? Like I guess the costume designers working on, but it was his art that inspired.
But this just looks like something out of his sketchbook, and it's a survival base building game in the style of Geiger. And I just think, looking at this, I've not seen too many games that look like this. I've seen lots of base building games. I've seen lots of survival games. I've seen games based on the art style of Geiger, but you put all those inspirations together to create this, and you get something that comes across as feeling very fresh and new. And this one stood out to me. Like I think it looks really cool. When it's out, I would. I think it's not out yet. I don't think. Once it's ready to go, I think I'll be jumping into that, because it looks really cool. And I just think this had
it's out in a few days. Out in a few days. 9th of May.
There we go. 9th of May. So not even that.
Demos out there obviously don't have a price point for it yet, but they've described as a mining management in a dystopian near past. Don't know how that works.
I think it's 1988 or something like that.
Right, okay, that's how it's in the so it's set in the I kind of get that. I was like, I don't understand how you can have a near past, but yeah, I get it now. Sorry, my brain was just like, you can't go that's not the way time goes. Time's an arrow. It goes in. It goes in this.
I just thought, like, based on our conversation, that just had the right mix of clear inspirations, but in a new, like the recipes new, you know? No, the dish is new, the recipes like inspired by.
Well, the recipe and the dish is new. That's the thing. You change
Yeah, I guess
change
so.
the
Yeah,
recipe and
yeah.
do
It's a
that.
new type of pizza.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what we're coining that term. It's a new type
Just
of
don't
pizza.
call it a pizza. That's the thing. That's
Yeah.
the only thing. That's I think about 90% of arguments are just nomenclature. Like people are just irritated by they have an understanding of what one word means, and then someone else
Mm.
uses it in a slightly different way, and they get upset. So you just go,
Well, I'll
"Oh,
tell
this
you.
is a pizza," and they're like, "Pizzas aren't like that," and this is this, and you're like, "Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
If we just said this isn't called a pizza anymore, we're just going to call this a Chicago pie."
Chicago pie.
Then
That's it.
pie
Yeah.
lovers would be like, "That's not a pie." You know what I mean? So you just
Yeah.
need it.
That's
You
not a
need a
pie.
new
That's a
word.
pizza.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like,
Tim Hortons, the Canadian
oh dear.
brand, they have, quite well known for their bagels and their coffee and stuff and their donuts,
And
branched
Timbits.
out into flatbreads, and those flatbreads are it's pizza.
Yeah.
Like
That's it.
it's cheese and toppings on bread. It's pizza, and but they call them flatbreads, so they've avoided the pizza market by calling it a
That's
flatbread.
smart. But we've got a pizza plate, well, a pizzeria just around the corner from us that sells pizzas with INSA at the end, which are apparently a thing and also not a thing. They're just
It's a Pokemon, isn't it?
Rome style flatbread things, which have all the toppings of a pizza. If you were making a
Yeah.
pizza, like, or we might call them like sourdough pizzas and stuff like that. You see them all over the city, but just don't call them pizzas, and then no one gets upset. And yeah, there's though to move on to the game I want to talk about, which is a kind of weird segue. The third one actually in my list, but it felt kind of linked to Anoxia Station. Bear and Breakfast. I think this was a free game on Epic a while back, and I was like, oh, I've never been so like not upset or wronged, but it's just. I didn't get into it. I haven't given it the time it needs. To be fair, I've done the old 90-second Firefly test on it, which is this is when you watch the first like minute of a show and decide the entire thing is not for you, as some friends of ours did upon being recommended the series Firefly, which we said was very good, and they were like watched the first scene of it and thought it was rubbish. And I'm like, you didn't even give one episode ago. Come on, I think you've missed a chance here. So that's where I'm at
Definitely
with
missed
Pair
it.
and Breakfast. Like I literally jumped into it and genuinely thought I was going to be straight into the management stuff. I was like, oh, cool. I love a little management sim, roller coaster tycoon,
Yeah.
theme park, theme hospital, all these kind of things. And as you can see from like the trailer, if you're joining us on the video, it's got that kind of thing. However, the opening has you doing a lot of walking around, more like action RPG kind of stuff. And I'm like, I just wanted to start like, I honestly thought it was going to be like point and click. Like I'm just
Mm.
going to click and I'm going to plonk things down and do that. I don't want to like walk the bear around at the minute, where you play as a bear that runs a bed and breakfast essentially, which, I think it's definitely worth some more time. I do want to, give it the time it deserves, because it's well rated. It's a few years old now. And it seems like the kind of thing where I'm like, yeah, I love that. There was one I played, indie game played a few years ago called Hive Time, where you manage a beehive, but it's a colony management sim where you're the
All right.
you're the
Yeah.
queen bee. That game was really cool as well. So you build the different hexagons of your base, which is the beehive, and you put different like workers and specialist bees, and it's a population management sim kind of thing. And I was like, since I like that kind of thing, I was like, this one will be fun. I like a little twist on that. But too much walking at the start meant I didn't actually get onto any base building. I'm like, I don't want
Mm.
exposition. I really want to jump in with the building and then maybe lure me in. Like for me, it was the wrong way around. I was like, I thought I was in for a management sim. Why am I getting exposition? Whereas, there's some players that would probably prefer that. They'll be lured in from the story and then get into the like base building management sim kind of
But
crack
it
on.
does. Yeah. I think one of the issues there is
Looks
obviously from the
lovely.
trailer, it doesn't. It makes it look like you go straight into the management
Yes,
side of things. So like, yeah, maybe a little bit
exactly.
misleading on the trailer.
I mean, there's a lot of games that do that, but like I was saying, and with the limited time I've had to play any games, I didn't get to give this one the time it deserved. But I thought it was worth a mention because it is one that I'm definitely going to go back to when I have some free time, because it feels kind of chill. And after all the work I've had on, I kind of want a little chill
Bit of a
game
chill
and
game. Yeah.
get get the week off as well. I've got some others as well that I have been playing. I'm saying I've been busy. I did have some stuff that was I was going to talk about last podcast anyway. So why not talk about them now? But Bad North Jotun Edition. This is a game I think you've wanted to play for a while as well. So if you haven't,
it's a game I
highly
really
go.
need to jump into. I don't know why.
Highly recommend it. Though my story with it is so to explain it, it's kind of like a really like miniature version of like an RTS. I think they've called it a real-time tactics roguelike. But the way I feel is like if you stripped away like Command and Conquer or like the early what were the Warhammer ones called that were like we used to love those. Played the first and second ones like online.
Dawn of War. Yeah.
Dawn of War, yeah. So like the Warhammer Dawn of War series. It's like halfway. It felt like halfway between that and Command and Conquer. Like you don't have the base building. You're not like whereas Dawn of War just gave you the units and that was what you had for the whole like mission. Do you know what I mean? Like they were like those C&C missions where you couldn't build anything, which I always hated as a kid because if you got your guys killed, you couldn't just rebuild. Whereas I like to send wave after wave of men to their peril. So this gives you like 3 or 4 units, and you just defend a very tiny island being bombarded by like Vikings, and it's great, and it's like visually it's very simple and very cute, and it's like and it's very like visceral. It's got a great feel to it. Like when the guys are getting hit by the arrows, they get the knockback like feels good. Like everything in it feels mint. Like loved it playing it, and like between missions, you like missions or levels or whatever you want to call them. You get like upgrades and you build up your guys. So it's got that kind of like XCOM vibe to it as well. In XCOM where like you'd go back to the spaceship and you'd upgrade your guys and give them new weapons and stuff like that. Based on the like gold you get in every level. So every level, like, at the end, there's like, you got this much gold for like how many guys you killed, how many of your buildings were left over at the end, all this stuff. And I was playing through it and doing a little campaign. It was going nicely. And you have this like route. The campaign like has like, a bit like in early C&C where you could choose which territory was the next one you were moving into, and there were some branching elements to the story. It has that, and you can choose which bit you move across into. And I was doing great and hadn't lost any units or whatever, and I'd moved onto this island, and you go from island to island. And then it just goes, bam, your island, this island that you're not even on anymore got took over and you're dead, and that's your game over. Like you're like 20 levels back in the past now. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Like, how is that like game over? I was like, there's obviously a reasoning for it, and you're supposedly meant to like, I don't know, maybe defend these islands. I didn't see how you could go back and defend them. And to me, I was just like, I was raging, Jim. Like I was more angry than I was at like this microphone before we jumped on here, because I was just like, I didn't understand.
That wasn't clear enough. Yeah,
I was just like, just let us know, like just tell us that this thing could be destroyed and it could just wipe out like an hour's worth of work. I'm like, I don't have time for this shit. I was really enjoying this game.
Yeah,
and I'm happy for games to be brutal and like to just have you lose like that, but I like to know why. I was like, I didn't know this was a mechanic that was even in the game. I didn't know any of these. You know what I mean? Like,
totally reminded me of there was I'm sure we spoke about this with one of the XCOM games. There was an enemy in the first or second one.
I've never played the first one, so it's going to have to be with the second one, else I won't.
Yeah, second one, which turns up like midway through and has abilities you've never seen before, is way harder, and turns up like mid-level. So like you are in the middle of like moving across open terrain or something, and then bang, this like super enemy comes out and just like annihilated like half my squad that I just built. XCOM, we were playing Iron Man, so like there was no saves. I lost 3 like experienced troopers, and I'm just like, okay, like I like
that though. I mean, I like it as a learning moment. I think some of those are cool, and another game that
was a bit brutal. I didn't like it when you went into that.
Brutalism needs to. I get you that like it's something that just shows up, and you're like, oh.
It felt cheap. It felt like it didn't feel like it was like, okay, this is getting progressively harder, and more enemies are coming, and I get that it's getting harder, and like it's almost like the game should
just blindsided
hold your hand. Yes, blindsided. I feel like the game doesn't need to hold your hand through it, but the game should be like, it progressively gets more difficult. You understand that. You understand you need to upgrade, otherwise you're going to lose guys. Oh, this level's going to be really hard when you go into it. Like, have that, all that stuff. But don't just like halfway through the level be like, oh yeah, 3 of your guys just died. Like,
Well,
what? Like, all the things you've taught me to do to play this
yeah.
game effectively are now out of the window because you've just brought an unknown into the situation. I felt that was a bit cheap.
It's like when you're playing a new board game or something, and that you're doing the whole like, oh well, and I do like to like learn as I play, but then like your mate
Yeah.
who's already played the game is like,
Yeah.
oh, by the way, there's this rule that affects you now, which I didn't
Yes,
tell you
that's
about
what it felt like.
beforehand, and you've
Yeah.
made all these decisions up to this point, and now you've lost everything. I'm like, mate, you could have warned us. Like, this.
Like, they've told you
That's
how
a
to
good
play the
move.
game. They've went, oh, by the way, this is what you do. This is how you get that done.
This is a
This
good
is how you
move.
should
This
do.
is a good move.
Yeah,
And you're like,
well
oh,
done. Yeah, you're doing
by
that.
the way, that wasn't a good
Lull
move.
you into false
This is
sense
true.
security. You
Yeah,
play
yeah.
3 rounds, you're like, oh, I'm getting the hang of this. And they're like, oh, yeah, here's the card
Oh,
I've
but
just played that wins me the game.
yeah, exactly. He
Yeah.
has that stupid card
What?
that like auto wins everything. It's like, yeah, when you get blind, it's like I think it's good to get like devastated. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Oh, yeah.
but not the loss. That's the thing. I could have taken like a setback, but not a game over. That's the thing that gets me. Where the big
It was
bad.
almost, that was game over in that, though,
That's what I
because, like,
mean. When you
we played the
when
Iron
you
Man and stuff. I lost 3. I was halfway through the game with like half my squad experience gone, knowing that the next level I was going to have to be in with like rookies with no equipment and stuff. And I was just like, oh well, I can't do this now because we played Iron Man on the hardest level. It was hard, and like I'll have to start again now. That's it.
yeah,
That 15-hour run that I've been on, that's over
yeah,
now. Like,
yeah.
that was really frustrating. So
I mean, that's
yes,
the
I
cool
know,
thing about
I get it. Yeah.
The Iron Man modes, but Don't
Yeah.
Starve Together was the game that did that quite a lot. But that felt
did.
like it was the loop. Like the loop is
It was, yeah. You
you
knew
go,
the next one was going to be really hard.
you knew the next one was going to be the one that killed you,
Yeah.
and then the next time you played, like that felt like that's the way the game had you play it. It's like, here's the milestone, it's going to be game over. And then next time you play, you're going to know how to get past that milestone. Like, you are going to die to each of these milestones at the first time. You are going to fall at the first hurdle every time. And that's how the
Yes.
game works. It throws in
That's
something
okay, I
new
don't mind
that
that.
you're completely unprepared for. And that's the whole point of the game. That's how it extends its life cycle. Like, the first big boss arrives and you will die. And the next time you play, you'll prepare for that big boss. But the second big boss is going to come along and you will die. And then you'll know what you'll need for both of those, and
like-
that'll happen over and over until like you'll never get through a boss on the first try in that like Don't Starve Together game or whatever you want to call them. There's these like events that
Yeah.
happen.
Events,
That's the kind of thing. But with something like that, and that's kind of fun of Iron Man. But I don't think games like Bad North and XCOM are the kind that can, even if you are playing like the Iron Man mode, that can just throw in a big bad, or at least not throw in a big bad that you can't just gnash off from or something, and just go like have a kind of like, this is you're going to sustain losses, but you're going to cut your losses now. That's how you're going to do it. The game is going to throw you a curveball, and you're going to get a strike, but you're not going to be out.
What game it's just given which did this quite well? Do you remember the game Dynasty Warriors?
Yeah.
Sort of the sort of like mass button mashing.
Yeah, there's like a million of them now. Yeah, button mash and swing swords around, and you kill like 300 people in 10 minutes, and then that's the level.
Yeah. So right, there was almost like a boss in that. I'm gonna get the game wrong. I'm sure it was called Lu Bu. Lu Bu, right? He was like almost invincible in the game. Really, really hard, right? Now there's a level where there's a possibility you can run into him. And if you try and fight him,
does the game make
there's
that
a very
clear?
strong possibility he's going to beat you because he's really difficult to play. Unless depends on which setting you're playing the game on, obviously.
Right, yeah.
But even on easy, he's way beyond your skills. So unless you're very good at the game and you've learned how to fight him, your chances are if you engage him, you're going to die. But you do have the option to not do that. So that's like, right, fine. That means if I decide to do it, I know I'm taking all the risk. If I lose the game, it's kind of my fault. But if that game forced you to fight him at a certain point and then ended the game, then you'd feel really hard done by. So that's where I think they've got to find the balance with things like what you're saying with Bad North, and what I think, to be fair, XCOM it was one mission that it was just, just a poorly thought out moment. That's all it was. But if you cannot do that, can you? You cannot be like, oh, we've set the rules, we've told you how to do this, and then
Psych, there's a
oh
secret rule you never heard of.
yeah, bang, you didn't see that. Now you've lost the game. Like what?
Yeah.
What?
Ah, well, but yeah, it also depends on the kind of like game experience that they're looking for as well, because you know in certain games that like I said in Don't Starve, that felt like it was part of the fun of it, like.
Yeah.
And like
But you knew what you were getting into, though.
I like difficulty, but yeah, I don't. It's the cheapness of something that you can't prepare for. It's like, you know, people know Dark Souls is always the example of super difficult games, and people know what they're getting into, and they know they're going to die, and they know something's going to come up, and it's going to have a move that's just going to batter you.
And that's
And
the fun of the game for them, isn't it? It's like now I know it's coming. I'll go try. And it's the same with Don't Starve. Like you know you're gonna die.
Like right
Then
from the
the fun
outset,
is
but XCOM
but how do I do
XCOM
it?
eases you into that. Like XCOM doesn't start with the first mission being nails.
Well,
Like it
XCOM's
had,
thing is don't die. XCOM's thing is you have to survive this. So like
yeah,
if you're saying
exactly.
you have to survive and then you throw in this like game ending moment, then it's like, well, that's cheap. But Don't Starve, it's like, no, you're probably gonna die, but
Yeah,
then next
I
time
mean it's
round you'll figure
literally
out
like
how to beat this
alluded
thing.
to in the title. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So it's that you know what you're getting into. It's just a way of balancing expectations, I guess, when people start playing games.
yeah. Well,
Did
shall
you
we jump
have
on the? Should we jump on
another
my
one?
last one? Yeah,
Yeah.
the last. Well, let's have a fight. This is one, not a, this is not a new indie game that people are going to be like, oh, I've never heard of it. I mean, this is one I finally jumped in. Infinifactory is a game that is like, I mean, it's 10 years old now, so
Wow.
it's one of these. It's one of these games where it's just a nice puzzle game in 3D space where you've got to basically just make a production line. That's the be all and end all of it. It's got this nice kind of almost a Portal-esque like
Yeah, yeah.
story around it as well. So you
All right, story. Okay.
but in the same way that Portal's just like here you are. This feels kind of sinister. You just kind of like wake up somewhere and do like a training uh, program for like how it works, and then it's got like like every level has just like a random dead body on it that you can go up to and like
That
read
was pretty good timing, Joe. I don't know if you know, but
listen,
that's
yeah,
exactly
so
when
it
the
came
dead
up.
body
Yeah,
popped
yeah.
up.
It's yeah. So that they always have this like random like dead worker. So you get the idea that this factory's not like up to code kind of thing, and you've got these like seemingly evil alien overlords that are just that's what you've got to do. Your job is just do this, make X product, and here are some like essentially Lego bricks of different like uh production line parts that you put together. And there's always like there are multiple solutions because you've got like the 3D space to work into, but if you really want to get into it, and if you're like, I don't know, someone with a degree in engineering, for example, it is something where you could like optimize, because at the end of every level it gives you like a graph of like how you've done in terms of like percentiles. And is your thing as optimal as it could be, or is there a better way to make this production line work, to make it like make X number of products in fewer cycles, or use fewer bits, or assemble the thing in fewer steps? It's if you liked like Lego and Meccano and Kinects and that kind of stuff like growing up, it's definitely one of these games that where you'll just be like, this is great fun. That scratches that weird itch in the back of my brain for like a nicely finished project. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it's but it's also one of these ones where I think, and again, like I said, I haven't played loads of this just due to time constraints, but like I did a good number of levels on it, and it's one of those things where I'm like, I know this is going to get like mega difficult. This is one of those things where it's like putting together the most complicated bit of IKEA furniture and you're missing half the bits in the instructions. Like, you're just like, oh no, why doesn't my grill look like that? And then
Yeah.
it's like, the grill? What? Yeah, it's one of those things where I know it's like you're gonna have some of the levels where you're just gonna be like smacking your head against the wall, and you're gonna want to like look up a solution video on YouTube, and I never do because I hate that. I hate doing that. It like takes all the joy out of it for me. I'm like, I want to solve it myself. But then there's other games where I think they're actually enhanced by this. So there's like for example, Transport Tycoon and Open Transport Tycoon, which is the community-made version of that. In that, there's like a whole community and there's websites, and they have like things where like here's some effective like railway junctions you could put in your thing, and I'm like, that's not cheating because that's not like a solution to a thing. Obviously, it is a solution, but you get me. It's not like an insta win. Like whereas on Infinifactory, if you just looked up a working production
Right,
line
okay.
for X level, that's just giving you the answer, and finding the answer is part of it. Whereas me learning some skills in different like railway configurations to make more effective railway networks in Transport Tycoon is something where I feel like community answers and like videos and stuff like that are actually like, make the game better. Whereas looking up answers in a puzzle game feels like you've kind of gone against what the game's trying to offer you. So I wouldn't do that, but I know there is going to be some points where I'm going to want to like put my head through the screen trying to solve some of these because they're going to just be beyond me. And it might even be the point where I drop off it because I do know that I like puzzles, as much as the next person. Maybe a little bit more. I think I have an above average fondness for puzzles, but I'm not like no, but I'm not like one of these like out and out puzzle lovers. Like I am just like if you've ever played Myst or those kind of like. Those are the games where I can get frustrated very quickly, and you're just like there's a certain point I'm like I like puzzles. I like them to be a bit difficult, but there is a gruesome level of difficulty that puzzles can have where you're just like, nah, I'm not
I
doing
don't love
that.
this enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love it that much.
Yeah,
I'll see if this is something that I'll eventually like drop off when it gets mega difficult. But I think there's still quite a lot of hours in it available for me to still like extract enjoyment out of it. I'm not gonna like 100% it or like optimize everything I do. I'm probably one of these players that will get a solution and be like, if the solution works, that's good enough for me. I'm not gonna go back and optimize my solutions. I'm like, get a working solution to progress the next level. That's the kind of depth that I like
And then
out
I'm
of these
done.
kind of games. Exactly. But yeah.
Cracking, right? Well, I think that's been a pretty good roundup. We've done a double length episode this time around because obviously we missed the last one due to various things. So we'll be back to probably around about half an hour next time in a couple of weeks. So let's have a
that
look.
should
What will that
be.
be?
Are we doing
The
16th and
9th.
30th or 9th and 23rd?
Oh,
Right?
do you want to? Yeah, we could. Yeah, we
9th
could
and
do the
23rd.
9th, right?
Yeah,
9th
that's
and
how I'm
23rd.
looking. Yeah, that seems
So
to
the
line.
9th of May and the 23rd of May are likely going to be our next couple episodes, back to about half an hour. You've had a good couple of games. And one last thing, Joe, I just want to ask you about. Have you seen any of the new season of Andor?
No. I've like I was saying, I've been so like swamped with work and crack on. I saw it's up, and it is. I'm not even gonna get onto it next week. Actually, there's because got folk visiting. Literally, I've just like had no days off in like 2-3 weeks now. Got people visiting next week. I'm finishing up all my work for the month on Sunday, and then I'm having a week off, but with guests. So there's no time to sit down and watch then. So the week after, it becomes my all the Star Wars like series and mini series or whatever you want to call them. All of those are my special lunchtime viewing, which sounds weird. But when those things are out, and because they're normally weekly,
Well, you
I
have
normally
4
get like
episodes
one.
or something by then.
Yeah, I know. So I'll have an entire week of that, just like getting back into work in a slow kind of rhythm. But that's one of those things where I'll just that's when I get a long lunch normally once a week when there's a new Star Wars thing out that's coming out weekly, like every Wednesday or Thursday. I'm like, yes, that's out. Today's lunch is going to be 45 minutes instead of like 20.
Well, the reason I ask is I think I've found my new favorite Star Wars prop that I would want if it existed in real life. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
I'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, it's something turns up in one of the episodes. I'm like, oh man, if that actually existed as a real life thing, I would have that so fast. So yes, not as high as obviously a lightsaber. Come on, obviously that's the thing everyone wants, but it would be high up on my list of things I would want in my house for sure.
I'm gonna keep an eye out for it, Jim. That's
I'll tell you what, in what you said, you're going to watch it in a couple of weeks' time. So if we get into
next
the
podcast.
23rd, I'm going to quiz you on what it might be. You probably have seen it by the
Oh no,
23rd.
I'll do it, but do it on the 9th. I'll have it watched by then,
Okay,
right?
I'll quiz you on what the object is that I think that
Because that was
that you
that week
think I
of
should.
the week of the next podcast is going to be the week where I'm going to be getting back into work for the
Okay.
month of May and watching all the episodes. So I'll have 4 or 5 episodes watched by that point. It's Monday,
Okay,
Tuesday,
you've definitely seen it. So yeah, it's yeah,
Mint.
it's a fun little thing. Cool, right? Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks Joe, obviously, and I guess we'll see everyone in a couple of weeks for more indie games.
Absolutely.
Brilliant, right? Catch you later.